Okay, we're going to have a look at the actual meanings of the cards now. It's obviously quite important in order to be able to read them. Unfortunately, it's not that straightforward. Underneath this video in the course material, you will see a list of basic general meanings attributed to each of the major cards in your deck. These are very general meanings that the majority of readers can subscribe to. The thing is, you will read your deck differently to the way anybody else would read it. And that's not a bad thing. That's about you connecting with your deck and you basically using your deck properly, how you're supposed to use it. Now, as we had a look at before, the imagery on your decks are different. On each deck is different, and the way each reader would interpret that imagery is also going to be different. So, as you know, have a look at the meanings that we've provided on this, because they are your basic core meanings. These are the things that the majority of readers will get these meanings from cards, but you will probably get a slight variation on them, or you will get a certain message from a certain card that isn't on that list. And the meaning you get from each card will be different through all of your decks. So whenever you get a new deck, you have to go through the process of connecting with that deck. You'll hear that phrase a lot, or you might have read it a lot if you're reading a lot of tarot things, about connecting with your deck or attuning with your deck and things like that. And basically what it means is learning what you get from that deck and what that deck is trying to tell you. And there isn't really a shortcut around it. You have to take time to sit and do it. Like I say, you read through and learn the general meanings I've given below, and then what you really need to do is to sit down with your deck and look at each individual card. Look at what parts of it, of the imagery on it, stand out for you. What do they call to you? I'm using the newer deck here, the more modern deck, just because the imagery in it is more colourful and more symbolic and stylized than the traditional deck. So that's why I'm using this one just as an example point. As you can see, these are all, there's loads of imagery in these, and you just really need to sit and look at each individual card and see what imagery in there you can connect to the general meaning, and also what imagery you connect to your own meaning. Like in this one, we've got in this deck, it's called a trickster, but it's traditionally the magician card. And as you can see, this is someone who's quite confident. They're standing there, they're juggling lots of things, they're doing it on one leg, they're quite confident, what they're doing. By the same token, they've got this path going off behind them that they're not looking at, and that confidence may be blinding them to what could be coming up behind them. And that's what I mean, like using that kind of thought process to look and see what you get out of each card. The other thing you've got in here to is all these little seedlings, which shows sort of potential. So that those little seedlings are at the beginning of their journey, and the magician card is number 1, and it is near the beginning of, the tarot deck as a whole tends to represent a loop of life experiences. You start off with the Fool, which I always thought is a harsh term for a card. I'd prefer kind of the youth, or the innocent. There's loads of potential there. You can see, look, all these things up in this tree, but you might not see them because he's a bit naive. And you see, folding his arms, looking away. Yeah. And then we go through, and that's basically what it is. It's looking at each of the cards, pulling out the imagery in them. This card again, on this one, it's called the Virgin. But I get something very different from this card than I do get from the Priestess card in a traditional deck, which is what this is, the alternative. The number 2 card in a traditional deck is the Priestess. With this one, I get kind of a feeling of, I get a more spiritual impact. This card for me is about someone's spiritual life and their beliefs, and that element of it, that element I find is there in the Priestess deck and the priestess card in a deck anyway, but it's amplified when I use this deck because of the imagery, and I don't know, I can't pinpoint what it is on that imagery, but when I gaze at it, those are the kind of feelings that come through. So don't worry if you can't pinpoint what it is that delivers a certain message to you in a deck. As long as you're aware of it and you recognize it, that's the main thing. Like I say, you do need to spend time going through your cards kind of one by one, unfortunately, and just, like I say, looking at the imagery you've got on there and thinking about what it means to you. What do you associate with the things that you're seeing? You know, and there's no right or wrong answer to this. It's just a case of, you know, what do you see in it? What does it represent to you? And taking that from it. What I would say is whenever you get a new deck, what you need to do is do this as an exercise, but take notes when you're doing it. Because every time you do a read, you don't want to spend like 2 hours gazing into all your cards, trying to remember your specific meaning, as well as, you know, people often have like their little books open, or you can print off the meanings from here, or write them down in a book and have them there when you first start doing readings to reference. But you need your personal ones as well. So I'm going to show you something that I found in one of my tarot bags the other day. And this is, I'm scared it might fall apart at any minute. I'm going to put this under this camera. You can see that there. It's basically all of the major cards, all of the different, these are all the minor ones. You can ignore these ones for now. But all of the names of the major cards and little notes about what I got from them. And I still do this if I buy a new deck, while I'm learning that deck, because you don't learn tarot and that's it, you know it. Every time you buy a new deck, you have to learn your new deck, and you have to, let's say, connect with your deck and work out what you get from it. And this is a process I go through, and it's literally just notes of what I see from that deck, and then this goes in a bag with the tarot deck. And when I'm learning that deck and doing practice readings for friends and family and just getting the hang of that deck, this comes out and it goes next to my deck. Just so, like I say, you don't have to go through that process of rediscovering the entire deck for 2 or 3 hours every time you want to do a reading. You won't be looking at that forever, you know. After you've been using a deck for a while, it just kind of, it becomes second nature, you know. And a few people would say, oh, you shouldn't do that, you know, you should just respond to what you see in the deck at the time. And we are going to cover that when we do readings, and you absolutely should do that. But you will get much clearer messages from a deck sat at home, relaxed by yourself, going through them, than you will if you're doing a reading for a friend, especially when you're starting out, because you automatically get a little bit nervous and you're not really in the right mind space to be kind of looking at cards on that meditative level when you're feeling a bit nervous and a bit apprehensive about doing your first readings. So I think it's a great tool. You know, even the process of just writing them down helps kind of you build that connection with the deck. So it's something I would recommend that you do. So yes, that is basically, like I say, there's, you know, the list below the video somewhere of the general meanings. Learn them, look at them, and they will give you an idea for the cards. The other way to sort of look at the major arcana, like I say, they do kind of build a story as you go through them. You know, you start off with, where am I? I'm going to use the traditional one now. You start off with, you know, potential but naivety, and then you go through to, you know, confidence, but is it too much confidence? And, you know, you look at the people that help you through your life, and you have, you know, your spiritual guides, you know, your nurturing female figures, your nurturing father figures, you know, the male aspects of spirituality, and the aspects of spirituality that you may see as more of a masculine element, and they all come together and help you. And then eventually you know, you find company in life, and it enriches it, and you work with others, and then you may travel, and you may make transitions at that point in your life, and, you know, and other people will judge you, and you will make judgments on them, and you will have to contemplate things on your own, and you'll realize popularity isn't everything, and things will continue to change and roll around like a wheel, and on we go. It this is how the tarot deck works. It is a continuous cycle, going right the way through, and you will work this out when you read the meanings. And it's not a straight story. It's about having to balance complexities and make good out of things gone bad, and all of these trials, and they all form part of the lovely tarot circle of the human experience, which is why I like tarot so much. And eventually it rolls round to the point where you have completed your goals and you're ready for the next stage, and then you start again. It's like a big circle. But these are things that you will see automatically as you start working with them. And I don't want to, I feel a bit funny doing these tutorials because I kind of don't want to tell you too much, because half the best way to learn the tarot sometimes is to discover it yourself. And I don't want to spell it out too much. I just want to kind of push you in the right direction. So read the general meanings. Read the general meanings. Sit for a couple of hours with your deck. Do your little kind of notes on your particular deck. And for your first assignment, I love setting homework. A little bit of a power trip. For your first assignment, all I want you to do is pick 3 of the cards out of your deck that you had a particular sort of instant or strong connection to. And I would like you to tell me what those 3 cards are. And just one by one, it doesn't have to be in massive detail, just a few sentences about what it was that stood out for you and what meaning you attributed to that. And like I say, if you just don't have to do it with all of them, just pick 3 cards and fill in the assignment form and send that through to me, and you'll get some feedback from me on that. But it's just to kind of, we need to get this connection with the cards before we start reading them, so it's just to make sure you can do that. Okay, so go and have fun. Make a nice make a pot of tea and sit with your cards and enjoy them. And I look forward to getting your assignments.